Hey, what's up you guys? It's Simon. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, as you guys have seen from my recent Twitch streams, which if you didn't know that I have a Twitch, I do. I stream every Sunday at 3 p.m. CST and every Wednesday at 6 p.m. CST, so you can find me at twitch.tv/SimonAESArts. But as you've probably seen from my recent Twitch streams, I have been preparing for this challenge in particular. I decided I wanted to try and do my best to make something interesting in MS Paint. So for the streams, I decided I was going to take requests for the first one, and that went horribly. I promise not every stream I do is going to be about Garfield. I promise, and if you don't know what I mean, I believe both of the Garfield related streams are up on my Twitch channel, so go and check those out if you want to see the absolute nightmare that the viewers put me through. So anyways, the first one I took requests, which was heavily Garfield related, and then the second one I decided I was going to try and do one of my mermaid prompts through MS Paint, which went relatively well until about the end of it. And you guys saw that on Instagram. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, I don't think I can bring myself to say it, so please go check out my Instagram. It's the I believe it was day 11 or day 12, but trust me, you'll see it, you'll be able to tell. Anyways, so yeah, I basically did those streams because I wanted to practice, I guess, using MS Paint and trying to make something look decent. I don't know why I really decided to do this challenge. I think I just was like feeling a little nostalgic for paint. I used to use it back all the way before I got my first tablet, obviously. I'm sure all of you did that thing where you would just make a bunch of like squiggles on screen and then fill them in the paint bucket with like random different colors, and that was one of your first instances of trying to create digital art. But yeah, I guess I was feeling sort of nostalgic, and I thought that I would try to create something good in MS Paint. Also, I have a relatively painterly style. I know I have obviously my line work style, but I sort of used that, but I sort of tried to do my painterly style as well because I thought that would be a good thing to try and see if I can replicate, especially because I guess paint is like the equivalent of using like cheap art supplies. Like you see all those things about like YouTubers using like, how many times am I gonna say like in this video? YouTubers using like those cheap watercolor palettes, the little Crayola ones and something, trying to make good art with it that they would make with their normal expensive watercolors. It's sort of like a show of, it's not about the supplies you have, but it's about the techniques you use. So I was like, can I apply that to MS Paint as someone who has a very blended, fairly smooth painterly style? And so the first thing I did was I decided I was going to do a bust. I didn't want to do any full bodies just because I figured from the Twitch experience that the canvas sizing on paint is not the best. It's definitely very weird. You can only zoom in and out so much. Like, it's in intervals of 100 versus like Psy, where you can literally zoom in by the pixel. So that was definitely frustrating, so I didn't want to do that. I literally struggled with it just doing the bust alone. But also there's so much space to fill. Like, even on when I was doing Mermaid, that tail was so, oh gosh, yeah, I knew this would be like 12 hours of footage, and I was like, I can't, my VSTC has been acting so weird on me. I was like, there's no way that I'm gonna be able to edit that. I was hardly able to edit this video, and it was only an hour and 40 minutes, so VSTC's really been struggling. So I was like, I'm gonna make things easier on myself. I'm gonna do a bust because that is what I am the most comfortable with, but also I won't have to deal with filling large spaces and with the lack of comfortable zoomage, if you will. So I decided to do a bust. I just sketched something really, really simple, and then I really wanted to push the blending that I could do with paint. So I decided I was going to do somebody with ombre hair because, as I've said, I don't remember if it was in a live stream or not, but I mentioned that for mermaid, I really, really like to do like ombre tails. And so I was like, well, if I'm not doing a mermaid for this, I could do ombre hair. And also, that would obviously mean lots and lots of picking and choosing and blending. So the good thing about the new paint that came out with, I believe it was Windows 10, was that we got a lot more brush options, which I neglected to use most of. I noticed only some of the brushes have pen pressure, which is incredibly weird. I don't know why they would only give them to half their brushes. I also noticed that you don't see it that much because I don't believe I even used it for the hair, and if I did, it was not consistent enough for it to matter. But the brush, like the square brush that's in it's either the bottom left or the middle left, but if you push that down and you hold it and you try to cover a surface area, for some reason at one point it just stops writing. And so I was like, okay, that's great. But the good thing I noticed about the brush is that it does have some transparency, which is so new for paint. I don't know if you guys remember paint back when it was literally just the dot like pen tool and then the little teeny tiny pencil tool. But neither of those had any sort of opacity. There was nothing that you could like change the pen settings, I guess, to mimic the idea of it having any sort of transparency. But the brush did, so I was able to use that into my advantage when I was painting the hair. I would very, very lightly like swipe the brush for a second so that I could get some of those transparent like transition shades, and then I would color pick that. And by the way, oh my goodness, you people that exclusively use Paint Tools, I use Paint Tools. What am I talking about? You people, you lovely, lovely people that consistently use MS Paint, please tell me, is there a keyboard shortcut for the eyedropper tool? Because that was my biggest struggle in this. I feel like I would have had a lot more energy to blend the face out had I had a color dropper that I didn't have to consistently keep moving all the way across the screen to go and get. In Psy, it's literally just alt-click. But Paint doesn't have that. And also, I was recording this at literally 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I just was not feeling the face. So like I said, if you guys know any keyboard shortcuts in Psy, why do I keep doing that? In Paint, I think it's the paint that's messing me up. If you know any keyboard shortcuts in MS Paint, please leave them in the comments. Literally, the only keyboard shortcuts that worked for me, that work for everything else, was Control-Z and Control-Y. But like, I swear, every time I tried to select something, I would have to click off to get it to deselect, and that bothered me so much because I'm so used to just hitting Control-D and then it's deselected, and it was, Paint is definitely interesting, and it does show how, like, we as digital artists heavily rely on our keyboard shortcuts and our little tips and tricks, at least in my case. I don't know how, like, it was more frustrating to me just because it was in a different program. Because when you think about it, when you're making traditional art, your eraser is Control-Z. There is no Control-Y. There's no selection tool. So why do we get so upset when we suddenly don't have those things anymore? As if we don't, like, already make art without them. I don't know. I was getting really irritated. It might have been coupled with the fact that it was 2 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, so I tried to do the ombre hair, and I really like it a lot. I think it looks super pretty. It kind of reminds me of how my hair was a few months ago. I mentioned in the last video that I dyed my hair blue or something like that a while ago, and then I literally went straight to gray and then back to red. But every time I see somebody with blue hair, I miss it so much. So I think that's why I went with sort of like a bluish teal, but also because I felt like the blue, I would be able to push the values a lot more and make something that stood out a lot. So yeah, I did that with the hair. I think there's like 6 different colors that I had to use, but to be honest, I could have used a few more shades to make the transitions a little smoother towards the end of her hair. But I am really happy with how it turned out, and like I said, I could have put a little bit more effort into the face, but for MS Paint, and especially compared to my first MS Paint challenge, actually, if I still have that clip, I might insert it in here somewhere, because that was a nightmare. Like, it was very, very messy. So considering my first attempt at this challenge that I did, I don't know, it might have been a year ago, it might have been a few months ago, but I think there was a significant difference. So I'm very happy with how this challenge turned out, and I guess that is it for this video. So I want to get a little bit into the next video. I want to do one where I draw your guys' art, so please DM me on Instagram and tell me about some of your guys' drawings, or show me some of your OCs, because I want to do a drawing my followers' OCs or something like that for the next video, so please leave that in the comments down below. I love you guys so much. Don't forget to follow me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/SimonAESArts to get cool things like shoutouts at the end of my Saturday videos, as well as discounts on prints, tiled wallpapers, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So that, again, that's patreon.com/SimonAESArts. And thank you to my patron Elise Thompson for continuing to support me. I will see you guys next Saturday. Bye.